This is Bone Chillers to disturb your dreams. Dare to join us? Click subscribe, ring the bell. But remember, we cannot guarantee your safety from the nightmares that await. Prepare to be thrilled, chilled, and filled with a sense of dread you'll find nowhere else. Welcome to the darkness. We've been waiting.
Husband and wife. It was the beginning of summer, and Tom and Marie were off on their annual camping trip near the Fort Apache Reservation. A tradition they'd held dear to their hearts, the trip always marked the start of many adventures. However, this year was different. As the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky a rich tapestry of oranges and purples, Tom noticed a change in his beloved wife. For the first time in their marriage, Marie was a master at building the campfire. Flames danced up higher and hotter than they ever had before, casting an ethereal glow on Marie's face, revealing an inscrutable intensity in her eyes. It's almost as if the fire is responding to her, Tom thought, as he stared, incredulous and slightly afraid. The following day, he noticed her speaking in an unfamiliar dialect. Listening to her, he felt a chill creep up his spine. Marie's voice echoed in his head long after she'd stopped speaking. Troubled, Tom decided to investigate. He recalled stories about the local Native American legends, particularly one about the skinwalkers, shape-shifting witches that could take any form, even those of your loved ones. With dread pooling in his heart, Tom approached the tribal elder, Nantan, who resided near the reservation. As he relayed his concerns, Nantan's features tightened with apprehension. He invited Tom into his home, promising answers. Nantan told Tom about the legend of the skinwalkers, shape-shifting creatures that could take the form of those you love. He warned Tom that the skinwalkers were masters of deceit, and if Marie were indeed one, he must approach with caution. Fear, it seemed, was their ultimate source of power. Chilled to his core, Tom asked how to rid himself of the skinwalker. Nantan advised him to confront the creature, armed with courage and the ancient tribal law, specifically an incantation that would banish the creature back to its realm. Returning to their campsite, Tom found Marie humming an ancient tribal song, her voice carrying an eerie tone. The beautiful woman he loved was a facade hiding a sinister being. Armed with newfound courage, he decided to confront her. "Marie," Tom began, swallowing his fear. "I need to tell you something." Marie turned towards him, her emerald eyes gleaming with an eerie light. Tom felt a rush of fear but stood his ground. He began reciting the incantation Nantan had given him. As the words left his mouth, Marie's demeanor changed. Her sweet smile contorted into a snarl, her emerald eyes flickering to a blood-curdling crimson. "What are you doing, Tom?" she asked, her voice not hers anymore. "I am freeing you, Marie." "I am freeing us," Tom replied. With each word of the incantation, he felt the atmosphere tighten, the air growing heavy with tension. He saw the creature in Marie recoil, its facade faltering. Her form shimmered, revealing a grotesque figure beneath, eyes filled with malevolence, face a twisted mimicry of his wife's. Unhinged laughter filled the air. "Your love makes you weak, Tom," it snarled. But he stood tall, reciting the incantation louder, his heart pounding in his chest. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the creature. Its screams echoed through the forest, sending birds scattering in fright. Then, silence. The figure in front of Tom flickered one last time before disappearing, leaving nothing but Marie's empty clothes behind. With the creature gone, Tom fell to his knees, exhausted but victorious. He had confronted the horror that had been masquerading as his wife and won. But in his victory was profound loss. The woman he loved was gone. As he packed their belongings, Tom felt a bittersweet resolution. He left behind the horror of the skinwalker, but also the memory of his wife. With a final glance at the now extinguished campfire, he walked away, the echoes of an ancient tribal incantation lingering in the quiet forest. Morphing terrors. Dr. Isabella Marquez strode through the thrashing fronds of the Amazon rainforest, her heart pounding with the echo of the unseen. No creature known to mankind could have created the carnage she'd been sent to investigate. The mangled, mutilated bodies of what had once been men. It was here, amidst the steaming greenery and crawling life, that she was to meet her test, an alien horde. A crash site, the government had said. An alien spacecraft buried deep into the jungle. The creatures on board had survived, adapting with unthinkable speed to Earth's environments. Their biology was mutable, shifting, terrifying, bending to the will of survival into forms that nightmares were made of. As a biochemist, her role was to understand these morphing terrors, to decode their biology, to prevent their spread. As a woman, she was to confront a past that had left her scarred, nestled here in the vast, wild expanses of the Amazon. Under the dense foliage, she found the crash site. The spaceship lay mangled, a twisted knot of unrecognizable metals and oozing, pulsating organic matter. She set her gear down, putting on gloves, and reached out to touch the alien material. It was warm and wet, writhing slightly under her touch. As she gathered samples, her mind was drawn to the monstrous beings this craft had birthed. She'd seen the photos, beings of all shapes and sizes, their bodies a grotesque parody of Earth's predatory fauna. Their bodies flowed like mercury, becoming sharp when necessary, or disappearing into the undergrowth like an apparition. Isabella's heart tightened. She was reminded of an old nightmare, a childhood trauma that had unfolded in these same jungles. A rogue jaguar, its eyes shining like twin moons in the dark, had mauled her parents during a family expedition. She was the sole survivor, left with the echoing roars of that feral beast in her mind. The alien's ability to mimic the deadliest creatures struck a raw nerve. With the samples secure, she initiated her portable lab, diving into the alien biology. Its cells were a labyrinth, a cascade of unending complexity. The DNA twisted in ways she couldn't comprehend. However, one thing was clear: the cells were in a state of constant flux, an accelerated evolution. Days blurred into nights. The rainforest echoed with the eerie shrieks of the aliens, each a shapeless predator in the dark. Isabella worked feverishly, the ghosts of her past whispering in the rustling leaves and the strange calls of the night. One evening, a harrowing roar shook her campsite. Isabella froze. It was a jaguar's roar, the same that echoed in her nightmares, the same that had claimed her parents' lives. Her blood ran cold as she picked up her tranquilizer gun. Stepping out, she saw it. The alien horde. In the semi-darkness, the creatures shivered and morphed, their bodies reflecting the fearsome predators of the jungle. At the forefront was the embodiment of her dread. An alien, its body contorting and flowing, had taken the shape of a massive, snarling jaguar, its eyes shining with an unnatural, malevolent intelligence. Driven by fear and determination, Isabella aimed and shot. The creature hissed, darting away as the dart grazed it. The horde scattered into the darkness, leaving behind the echoing roars. The fear of her past had returned, this time alien and even more terrifying. Isabella knew she had to end this. She toiled day and night, uncovering a potential weakness in the alien biology. Their adaptability was their strength, but it was also their vulnerability. A forced mutation could potentially destabilize their form, rendering them harmless. Working tirelessly, she developed a substance, a modified virus that induced extreme mutational stress in the cells. Her only chance to test it was to confront the horde again. Fear clawed at her as she prepared herself, armed with her concoction and tranquilizer gun. The confrontation was fierce. The alien jaguar charged her, its roar shaking the forest. She fired, the dart injecting the creature with her viral concoction. It howled in pain, its body convulsing, shifting rapidly between shapes before it collapsed, a harmless puddle of organic matter. The victory, however, was short-lived as the alien horde descended on her. She felt the fear grip her, her past nightmares echoing in her head. But she couldn't give in, she wouldn't. With a desperate yell, she released the concoction into the air as an aerosol, creating a mutagenic fog. The horde hissed and roared as they too convulsed, their bodies shifting in uncontrollable ways until they too collapsed, reduced to their harmless, primordial state. Isabella stood alone in the clearing, the morphing terrors finally silenced. She had faced her nightmares, alien and earthly, and emerged triumphant. She realized that the terrors had morphed her too. from a haunted survivor to a courageous savior. As dawn broke, she knew the rainforest was safe once more, the nightmares of the past finally put to rest.
Dawn of the Skinwalker.
In the vast arid plains of the Navajo Nation, something was stirring. For months, unexplained livestock mutilations had plagued the tribe, their terrified bleats echoing in the pitch-black nights. The mutilated remains were found come morning, ravaged, as if by a beast from forgotten lore. These grisly scenes were accompanied by sightings of an ominous entity prowling the outskirts of their homesteads. The whispers among the tribe grew louder with each incident, fear etched deep within their souls. Finally, the elders convened, their faces grim under the crimson blaze of the setting sun. The cause, they solemnly revealed, was a skinwalker, a malevolent shapeshifter from ancient Navajo folklore, believed to be a witch who had turned to dark arts and had the power to take on the forms of different animals. Hearing this, a brave warrior named Tahoma stepped forward. He was a tall, solemn man with a courageous heart and an unyielding belief in the wisdom of his ancestors. He declared his intent to confront the skinwalker, to protect his people and restore peace. The elders warned him of the danger, but recognizing his resolve, they handed him sacred talismans, an eagle feather, a turquoise pendant, and ash made from the bark of a blessed juniper tree. With the protective charms and the tribe's prayers, Tahoma ventured into the wilderness. The desert night was cold and moonlit, shadows dancing around him as he moved further into the darkness. He remembered his grandfather's stories of the skinwalkers, their tricks, and their delight in terror. But he was prepared. Around midnight, in a desolate, rocky crevice, he encountered the skinwalker. It was a monstrous sight, standing on hind legs like a man but covered in coarse, matted fur, its eyes reflecting an eerie yellow glow. It snarled, revealing sharp, gleaming fangs. Tahoma's heart pounded, but he did not falter. With a gut-wrenching roar, the beast lunged at him. Tahoma rolled aside, his hand clutching the eagle feather. The creature paused, as if recognizing the talisman's power. Seizing the moment, Tahoma began chanting an ancient prayer his grandmother had taught him, his voice firm and unyielding. The skinwalker shrieked, the air thickening with a palpable sense of dread. The earth beneath Tahoma's feet rumbled, and he saw the landscape transform before his eyes. He found himself surrounded by fire, his home ablaze, his tribe screaming in agony. The skinwalker had unveiled his deepest fear, his failure as a protector. The sight was horrifying, his heart ached, but Tahoma did not succumb. He remembered the elders' words, that the skinwalker exploited fear. Clasping the turquoise pendant, he closed his eyes and focused on his ancestors' wisdom. The pendant seemed to pulse with warmth, grounding him amidst the chaos. When he opened his eyes again, the flames were gone, and he stood before the snarling skinwalker once more. "You cannot break me," Tahoma shouted. "I am the son of this land, the bearer of ancient wisdom. I defy you." He threw the juniper ash towards the skinwalker. The beast recoiled, its screech piercing the night as the ash met its form, glowing with a divine light. The skinwalker began to morph uncontrollably, flickering between a man, a coyote, a crow, and back to the monster. Its form started to disintegrate, turning into a cloud of dust that the night winds scattered. Tahoma was left standing in the silence, the only sound his heavy breathing and the distant hoot of an owl. He returned home by the first light of dawn, greeted by the relieved faces of his tribe. His confrontation with the skinwalker became a tale told over the years, a chilling testament of courage and wisdom. The entity had exploited Tahoma's deepest fear, but his strength and the wisdom of his ancestors had prevailed, bringing peace to the Navajo Nation once again. The fear we share. Finn had been wandering aimlessly for hours in the dense forest, his compass offering no reprieve. Night was falling, and his fear was like a leech, siphoning away the little courage he had left. That's when he heard the rustle of undergrowth and looked up to see a pair of haunting, glowing eyes. Before him stood Thyon, an imposing creature of folklore. The being's majestic antlers, serrated and towering, broke the monotony of the dark canopy above. Its eyes bore into Finn's soul with a potent mix of curiosity and intimidation. Human, Thyn's voice rumbled, the words like stones tumbling down a mountain. Why do you trespass in my domain? Finn's throat was dry. He managed a whisper. I'm lost. Thyn studied him, his eyes flickering with an emotion Finn could not decipher. But before they could speak further, an unsettling chill swept through the forest. The environment twisted into grotesque forms. Shadows stretched and danced, forming hideous silhouettes. An ominous hum echoed, its resonance creeping into their bones. Thyn's confident demeanor shifted, and Finn saw what he never expected, fear in the creature's eyes. From the depths of the forest emerged the Fear Eater. It was a swirling vortex of inky blackness, with glimmers of twisted faces flashing within, embodying the very essence of terror. A malignant presence that fed and thrived on fear. The Fear Eater turned its ghastly visage towards them. Finn trembled uncontrollably, his mind filled with his deepest, darkest fears. Yet, beside him, Thyn stood equally paralyzed, his glowing eyes wide with horror. Fear, delicious fear, the Fear Eater's voice was like 1,000 whispers, grating and vile. A demon and a man. What a feast you both will make. Despite his terror, Finn glanced at Thyn. He saw the fear etched on the demonic creature's face, and in that moment, he realized they shared the same primal emotion, the same threat. They were both victims to this monstrosity, and perhaps they could be each other's salvation. Thyn, Finn stuttered, forcing the words out. We must face it, together. The horny demon looked at the human, surprise flickering in his eyes, swiftly replaced by determination. Together, Thyn agreed, his voice echoing through the grim forest. The two unlikely allies turned to face the Fear Eater. Finn felt his heart pounding in his chest, his every instinct screaming to run. But he stood his ground, taking deep, shuddering breaths. Next to him, Thyn radiated a newfound resolve, his antlers scraping the sky defiantly. They focused on their fears, bringing them to the forefront of their minds. The Fear Eater swelled, intoxicated by the banquet of terror before it. But then Finn and Thyn did something unexpected. They started to speak their fears aloud, bringing them into the cold, harsh light of reality. Finn spoke of his fear of the unknown, of dying alone in these woods. Thyn, in his deep, rumbling voice, confessed to fearing the loneliness of eternity, the endless cycle of inducing fear, and his dread of the Fear Eater itself. As they exposed their fears, they began to diminish. They became mere words, mere thoughts, stripped of their power. The Fear Eater shrank back, its form wavering, the faces within its mass contorting in agony. The forest grew silent. The Fear Eater let out a final, terrible wail and then imploded, leaving behind a fading echo. Both Finn and Thyn collapsed, drained but alive. They'd faced their fears, shared them, and survived. After a moment, Thyn rose, offering a clawed hand to Finn. You've shown courage, human. And wisdom. You may walk my woods freely. Finn accepted the hand, getting to his feet. And you, Thyn. You've shown me that everyone, even demons, have fears. They parted ways at the break of dawn, and you found respect between them. Fear had brought them together, and courage had set them free. As Finn found his way out of the woods, he glanced back one last time, forever changed by the fear they shared and overcame. And Thyn, no longer the dread of the forest but its protector, faded into the trees, carrying the lesson of shared fears and the power of vulnerability in his age-old heart.
Thank you for watching, and remember, the darkness awaits. Until our paths cross again, stay fearful and stay subscribed.